and thanks for joining us on this edition of Frontline. I am Obiora Ilo. Well, in this last February, we've had an upsurge in Boko Haram attacks, not only on defenseless citizens of Nigeria, but they have also taken it to the point of attacking, once again, secondary school students. And just yesterday we heard that 2 bomb explosions exploded. There were 2 bomb explosions in Maiduguri, and a number of people died and many were wounded. Today in our program, we'll be looking at this upsurge, what may have caused it, and how can Boko Haram be contained. We'll also be looking at the psychology of the Boko Haram terrorists, what is driving them. And in faraway United Kingdom, a Nigerian has come up with what he called the Counter-Terrorism Guidance for Nigerian Educational Institutions. We'll be talking to the author of that new guide on how schools can prevent the kind of attack that we had just recently. And with me in the studio to start this conversation is Dr. Madukwe Ukebu. Dr. Ukebu is a criminologist and a security analyst. Dr. Ukebu, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I also have Dr. Awalu Anwar. Dr. Awalu Anwar is a social historian and a policy consultant. Gentlemen, you're welcome to Frontline.
Thank you.
Well, we've seen a sudden rise in Boko Haram attacks. I have a list of Boko Haram attacks since 2010. You find out that in 2013, there was a considerable drop in Boko Haram attacks. And then in the last 2 months of this year, there's been a rise, and people say Boko Haram, they are more daring, they are more destructive, they are bolder. Let me start with you, Dr. Anwar. What could you attribute this upsurge, and what do you think is emboldening Boko Haram in the activities?
Well, I think we have to examine Boko Haram activities within a proper context. We're in a democracy which is guided by a constitution, and chapter 14, section 14, subsection 2b of the constitution says that the security and welfare of citizens shall be the purpose of government, the primary purpose of government. So all this cataloging of Boko Haram activities and others tends to show one thing: the failure of government to guarantee life and security of its citizens. We talk of mass armed robbery in the southwest. We talk of kidnapping in the southeast. We talk of militant activities in the south-south. And in the north, we talk of Boko Haram. So if you could coordinate all this, Nigeria has become like a theater of violence where anything can happen anytime to anyone. So if we restrict our own examination of Boko Haram to who they are, they are used to be conceived as ghosts. Maybe they have gotten flesh now. We may miss the point. The point, in my opinion, is that a large sum of money has been deployed for security in the previous budgets, 1, 2, or 3 budgets. The maximum that could be deployed for security has been deployed for security purposes. But still, things are happening as usual. You have to understand that in the northeast, there is a state of emergency, meaning security operatives and agencies are directly responsible to the federal authorities. No local government, no state, in terms of security activities. And the school in Bunyadi is a federal government college being attacked, and there are stories that a few hours or days to the attack, the military and police checkpoints that were there were withdrawn. There were these stories. I haven't checked to find how factual they are or not. So people are confused. What is government doing? Government seems to be sleeping. And anybody can just walk up and murder anybody. And the lives of ordinary Nigerians has become cheaper than the life of goats and chickens, because we have to buy those before you can eliminate them. So we have to see it within the context of the failure of government to provide adequate security for the citizens, which is the primary purpose of governance.
Are you saying that the increase is because government is becoming more lax? Government is abdicating its duties more than they had done before? Because there's, something has, there's an increase.
This is exactly what I'm saying. That in spite of the resources deployed to contain violence all over the country, including Boko Haram, people have not seen the commensurate result.
Could it be that the money is not getting to the operatives, the primary operatives?
I am really not in the process of security arrangement. I cannot know.
Okay, let me come to you. Let me come to you, Dr. Okebu. Some people I spoke with said that the argument between the president and the governor and some of the things that were said in the process may have emboldened the Boko Haram. Like when the governor said, look, the Boko Haram is more equipped, Boko Haram is more armed than our regular security men. And the president says, if I withdraw Boko Haram for 1 month, let me see if the governor will sleep in his government house. Could this also have contributed to Boko Haram seeing that, look, we're actually a big issue, maybe we should strike some more?
Let me first of all say that my condolence to the families that lost their loved ones, because those families and those that died are really what most Nigerians should be focusing on. It looks like we have, as Nigerians, become so complacent, as the doctor said here, that life has become so cheap that we leave what I consider to be a more serious issues and starts chasing shadows. I listened to what the governor said, and for both the presidency and all other people to start attacking the governor, to me was uncalled for. This is a governor who is on ground in Borno State, if my understanding is correct. He's the governor of Borno State. And he had a very serious security meeting, to my understanding, with the president of Nigeria. And he came out and made a statement saying, from my understanding, from the security analysis that I had, is that the kind of ferocity and the way and manner in which the group Boko Haram is unleashing mayhem seems to him, as the governor, that the Boko Haram people have an upper hand. I believe that what the military should do is to find out from the governor what details he has. These are things that should be done. What does the governor have in making such statement, instead of coming out to the public, castigating the governor, at the same time saying, if you withdraw troops? The governor is just one person. Borno State is bigger than the governor. Nigeria is bigger than whoever else that is making a statement concerning this particular situation. I think it is time for the security experts, the security analysts, and all the security apparatus of this country should sit down and get it right. What is it? What mistakes are being made in confronting the menace of Boko Haram? That should be the first thing. Not trying to juggle who is right and who is wrong. What is it that we are doing wrong that is making the issue of Boko Haram escalating, as you have given us the analysis? Just in recent months, is it the commentary of the newly appointed man at the helm of affairs, the army chief? Is it his comment? These are things that the people should sit down and say, where do we go from here? What mistakes have we made? What corrections should we make from here so that we can be able to nip this thing in the bud? For instance, we, a sect, will have a convoy. From my understanding, the terrain of Bono is very dusty, where they will have a convoy for so many hours, driving on so many cars, coming to a federal school, as the report says, spending 4 hours plus, unleashing mayhem, and nothing happened. It's a very serious problem for the security of this nation. That means anything can happen. Whether people, military people were withdrawn, this is something that the analysts should be able to sit down and, take a look at. Because it's important that we stop the bickering of who is right and who is wrong, because people are dying. We are not at war. We are not at war. This is what I consider, as he has said, in the southeast, kidnapping, in the southwest, other issues of crime, and then in the northeast, the issue of this sect. We really need to do something very seriously at this time instead of the bickering. And okay, my suggestion will be that the military and all other security agencies should talk to each other and find out how best to curtail this mayhem. Otherwise, nobody is safe.
Okay, Dr. Walu, I think the blame game should stop. I think I agree with Doctor. What would be your suggestions on containing Boko Haram at this time, considering so much money that we have put into it, considering the upsurge, considering the suffering of Nigerians? How should we go at this time?
Well, you see, when you say blame game should stop, I really don't know what you mean. The issue of Boko Haram and other issues that unleash violence on Nigerians are issues that are tied up to the responsibility of certain institutions and individuals. As a student of history, I don't believe that something can just drop from the sky or something can just emerge out of nothing. There has to be context. So nobody is blaming anybody. I don't expect the president to take guns and go and confront people in the northeast or in the southwest or south-south. I don't expect him to do that. But the issue is our security agencies have been given the maximum money, resources that are much more than the ones given to education, health, agriculture, everything combined have been given to security forces. And the result is as if the more you give them, the more lax they become. People are beginning to ask questions. Why can't security agencies begin to publish on newspapers what they receive and what they do with it? Because no Nigerian is above accountability. And sovereignty belongs to people. So even people in government have been given this mandate to work, to govern on behalf of the larger constituency of all Nigerian people. So the issue is not really somebody is blaming someone, but somebody is trying to tie up or to tie responsibilities to particular sectors of the security agencies in the nation.
Dr. Awalu, joining us on the phone now is General Chris Olukolade. Yeah. General Chris Olukolade is the defense spokesperson. Welcome to Frontline, General Chris Olukolade.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. General, we have noticed an upsurge in the attacks of Boko Haram in the recent past. And I want to just ask you, what is the strategy of the military? What are the military doing to contain Boko Haram and cut them to size? What is the military doing?
Well, maybe we can explain this in the light of what could have led to what you have recently. We maintain that what you are seeing at the moment is simply an outcome of the offensive on their discovered location. And in the course of coming out from there, they decide to perpetrate as much mayhem as we attract them attention as possible. That is what leading to what we are seeing. But we stand by the fact that by the time the offensive on their locations that have been discovered is done, much of their efforts being seen at the moment will have abated seriously. Besides, we're stepping up patrols and making it more robust to ensure that patrols and surveillance on land and on air are made more robust than it used to be. Besides, there are reorganizations within the forces to ensure that no loophole is exploited by these terrorists. And this will be continuous until we achieve the intention of the operation, which is to ensure that the activities are terminated.
Okay, General. The attack at the secondary school recently, something got a lot of Nigerians worried. They said the allegation or what we hear is that these terrorists moved in a convoy of about 10 Hilux vans. They got to the school. They operated for about 4 hours, and no security operatives were seen around that area at that time. Is this true? And if that is true, what could have happened? What could have breached that security arrangement? Because we also hear, we don't know how true, now that we are speaking with you, maybe you'll help us, that a few hours before the attack, the soldiers that were detailed to that area had been withdrawn. Can you help us and make this thing more understandable for us?
Well, a lot of stories have been going on out there. Much of it may not be very accurate, but we understand everybody is concerned about the incident and it gives a lot of worry. But like I said, much of what is being said may not be very exact. Where they are, for instance, if anybody saw that volume of vehicles in the move, I've not seen any claim that it was reported to security agencies. For whatever reason, anyone who noted that volume of movement has a good reason to be suspicious. But that was not made as a matter of report anywhere. And secondly, you must know that the agencies can't be everywhere as it's been assumed. What is on mostly are patrols that are mobile, moving from place to place, ensuring that every area is dominated. And if there are people either within the community or anywhere who is working for these insurgents, they will as well have been monitoring that movement and reporting it to their collaborators. And, well, these people have just moved from so place, you can do whatever you want. Now to the allegation that there was a checkpoint there that was withdrawn, we've confirmed that that is not true. Not very true, because no static checkpoint is located there. Maybe people will have noticed that the patrol passed through that area shortly before they were saying it. Maybe I'm saying this, maybe. But what the truth is that the only something close to static checkpoint was about 7 kilometers from that spot. And the people on that mission were given another assignment to get involved involved in the offensive I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
And that offensive was meant to pursue these guys from their hideout. It's not unlikely that that is the one people are referring to as withdrawal. But that withdrawal is not even not near at all to the place where this incident.
Okay, let me...
Some misunderstanding around here.
Yeah. Let me take you back to what one of the chiefs said during the handover, the recent handover of batons. We heard that today in the Nigerian military we have drones, which are like reconnaissance vehicles. And we are wondering if these vehicles are deployed, because part of what they should do is discover these movements from the air and, you know, like map the entire area and make it impossible for anybody to move around without being noticed. Are these equipment being deployed by the Nigerian Armed Forces?
The equipment that are relevant to this operation in every sense have been deployed. And please spare me the burden of having to give you the details.
Okay. Okay, finally, you talked about the people who may have seen these movements, no evidence of them reporting to the military. Is there a proper effort to enlighten people, you know, to tell them that if you see this, this is what you do? Is there that kind of collaboration between the military and the ordinary people in those flashpoint areas?
Everyone in Nigeria by now is conscious of the concern to fish out the terrorists in Nigeria. And I must commend the fact that some communities too have not only gotten involved to the extent of providing information, they have got to the level of being physically involved in tracking these people. And that gives back to the vigilante groups we are seeing everywhere.
Yeah.
Who are physically assisting. That in itself is one proof that people generally understand that these people are the enemies of all of us. And to that extent, movement of a convoy of that volume of criminals should be attractive to make reports. One would not want to blame anyone at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
We have explained also previously that one of the mischief that these terrorists did shortly before that incident was to destroy the telephone contacts and maps around that area a few moments before they carried out the operation. So very likely for this reason people cannot make phone contact. And I'm saying if it lasted for as long as they are alleging, even if somebody wanted to trek, once he sensed that danger, he will have done something to get information across. All of us are learning from this, and we think that from now, people noticing that kind of movement should do everything to make contact.
Thank you so very much, General Luke Kolade, for your time. And we wish you all the luck, all the best as you continue to make efforts to contain these criminals. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the support from your media. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, gentlemen, we heard from the horse's mouth. Most of what was told us may not be completely correct. But is it not our duty as Nigerians to help the military when we see this kind of movement? Is it not proper that Nigerians should be talking to security agents to say, we have seen suspicious movements? Doctor?
Well, I think he has confirmed that. He said that communities are cooperating, yes, to the extent that some have organized vigilante groups to physically participate in confronting the insurgents. So I think government doesn't even need to sensitize people. People have been fully sensitized. But the issue is there adequate synergy even, yes, among the security forces? When I was doing research on Metesini, I found out that there was a lot of territorialism. Police was doing its own job in isolation of the SSS, SSS in isolation of the military in isolation of other security agencies. So is there adequate synergy Are the security forces sharing information as it should be? Are their welfare actually being taken care of? The people that take the guns and go and confront insurgents in any part of Nigeria, are they actually being taken care of? Because, like in the case of Boko Haram, those people that are fighting on behalf of Boko Haram are ready to die, and they are convinced of their own motivation.
Okay, Doctor, sorry I'm interrupting again. Joining us from the United Kingdom is Temitokpe Olodo. Temitokpe Olodo is a preventive counter-terrorism expert. He's based in the United Kingdom. He has also written books on terrorism. One of them is Counter-Terrorism Guidance for Nigerian Religious Leaders. And the latest one, the reason why he's joining us on this program this afternoon, is the one he called Counter-Terrorism Guidance for Nigerian Educational Institutions. Temi, you're welcome to Frontline.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
Yes, Temi, you've been involved in the containment of Al-Qaeda. You've worked for the British government, consulted for them for a long time.
Yes.
What would be your suggestions for the challenges that we are facing here with Boko Haram in Nigeria?
My challenge is, my advice will be very simple. In order for us to be able to contain Boko Haram and other related Al-Qaeda-inspired groups, we need to shut off a tap, because we're killing one and they're creating three more. So the first job is to develop what we call a comprehensive counter-terrorism strategy that is people-driven. Not the one written in one office and handed to people, but something that the community is involved in. And then once you have that counter-terrorism strategy, we then need to have a de-radicalization project. A de-radicalization project where we are removing vulnerable people from the recruitment army that Boko Haram and the other are suffering for. Because what is happening now is that we have a lot of individuals who are jobless or who have other concerns or grievances, and they don't know how to use the democratic process as a means of addressing their concerns. And they are being recruited on a daily basis by people using them for criminal acts.
Okay, we even hear that some of the suicide bombers that work for Boko Haram receive, their families receive huge sums of money at the end of successful attacks. How do you think this can be addressed? Because you also had these issues with Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and even in Pakistan. What would be the best approach to discourage people from getting involved?
Thank you very much. It's very, very simple. In the UK, following the July 7th attack in the United Kingdom, the leaders came together, all leaders. I'm not talking of just the Labour Party, but the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats. So all political parties need to speak from one voice. And when they came together, they created what we call the contest strategy, which was the P strategy. There are 4 P's: the protect, the prevent, the pursue. And with that kind of strategy, what you need to do is to say, okay, there is a problem. We have youth being radicalized. We have people pitching hate. We have people that want to kill us. What we need to realize is that not everybody that is part of the Boko Haram group are actually there out of their own volition. Most of them are there because whether they have met a problem, some of them are there because they have problems economically, some of them need support. They are vulnerable individuals. So you can't kill everybody. And I want to encourage the Nigerian government to go about killing everybody, which is part of the problem we have. To be able to address that problem, we need to have what we call a de-radicalization or disengagement strategy. Now, there are people in the school system that we identify that are already radicalized. There are people that are going to hospital with wounds on their body that we need to radicalize, that we need to address. The people in the office places. Because most of these Boko Haram people are people within our community. So we need to be able to identify them. We need to have triggers. The problem we have in Nigeria so far is that we do not have a strategy. We do not have a protocol. All we are doing is firefighting. If Boko Haram is there, we go there, we kill them. If we have intelligence, we don't monitor them and bring them out and try to identify the challenges. So that is the biggest problem. In the UK, we managed to solve that problem. And if we take example from the UK and America and other countries where they've had terrorism challenges, look at what has worked for them, localize that strategy, and let it play, let it work in Nigeria.
Okay.
The problem we have in Nigeria is that we are not making anything work. We are playing lip service on the way on solving the terrorism challenges.
Okay, let me, because we don't have too much time, let me go to the main reason why we had to link up with you in the United Kingdom this afternoon. You just published what you call the counterterrorism guidance for educational institutions, which I'm sure was informed by the current attacks that we're having in secondary schools and educational institutions. Share with us those steps that you have advocated for these institutions as a preventive measure against Boko Haram attack.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. One of the things I've come to realize is that the response rate for Nigerian police is very, very slow. In the UK, if you call the police, they're done within 2 to 3 minutes. In Nigeria, they are done within 5 to 6 hours after everything has been done. So how do you then protect yourself? Take into consideration the response rate of security agencies. The first thing you need to do is to identify what is the risk that we are confronted with. So if you use another part of Nigeria, the risk we are confronted with at the moment is insurgency, bomb attack, military insurgencies coming in to shoot them. So you need to have a strategy. You have to have a panic room, or to do, the first thing you do is develop a strategy. What is the risk? Okay, how can we contain this risk? Do we have the capacity to contain this risk? How do we engage with the security service? How do we engage with the emergency service? So if people were shot, do you have first aiders? Do you have people that could minister first aid? Because if somebody is in the school, if you have 10 or 15 people that are trained in medical aid, providing medical emergency aid, it means that you could save at least 5 or 10 people from any attack. If you have a walkie-talkie that links directly to the police station, means that we are able to convey that information, even if the telephone satellites are blocked. Those are the kind of things I was talking about. Having different strategy within the school premises. You need to come together. The schools in those areas need to come together, and their security managers need to be discussing and say, let me tell you something, Boko Haram don't just enter into an environment, unknown environment, and go attack them. They will have surveyed that environment. So have you seen suspicious cars around your area? Have you seen people around your area and you've not challenged them? Those are the kind of things you need to do. So the reason I wrote that 22 steps is to be able to empower people that the government, the security services have failed, to be able to provide them with a service. And this is also a call to Nigerian police to invite people like myself that have expertise in this field, so that we could help them, because Nigeria is for all of us. And the children that are dying are our future. We need to be able to help them, to be able to give them guidance, give school guidance, little things. It doesn't cost a lot of money to put together a security.
Okay. Tell me. Let me look at some of the highlights of your 22 steps to, guidance for educational institutions. You talked about having what I think you called security. I think you call them security experts in the school. They have to. Every school must have somebody that is charged with security.
Yes.
And you talked about making sure that every school in Nigeria has proper perimeter fencing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Give me 2 more and I will let you go.
Okay. Yeah. Apart from that, you see, the perimeter fencing doesn't need to be wall on the ground. It could be a ditch that actually makes it difficult for a car to be able to carry a car through a ditch to get into the school. Sometimes schools are surrounded by bushes. And all you need to know is to be able to know that you have proper security plans there. Apart from that, you need to have a liaison officer, police officer that are liaison. How can you have a place like the northern Nigeria where there are serious attacks, and you don't have a counter-terrorism liaison officer. I'm calling on the IG. I am begging the IG to have people trained in counter-terrorism for schools, specifically for schools, that knows what the school needs, so that they could go into the school, speak to the man there, who is the security manager, speak to him in Hausa, speak to him in Fulani, explain to him what he needs to know. Let him know the things. It doesn't need to be in big English. It could be in simple English and simple languages, so that they'll be able to know that, oh, if this is happening, I need to call officer so. If there's a problem, how could the school be attacked over a period of 5 hours and not a single policeman is there or a single security officer is there to help them? If they have that link and these people are going to the schools to speak to them continuously, then we will not have this problem.
Okay.
The reason why I say that there is a failure in the link. There is
Okay.
a failure in the system.
Okay.
To address it.
Okay, Temi, I must thank you. I guess that one of these days you'll be in Nigeria, so we can have a more detailed discussion about the way forward.
I hope your viewers have got 1 or 2 lessons from this. I will pray that Nigeria becomes a better place for all of us. We love our country.
Thank you, Temi. Thank you very much. That was Temi Tokpo-Lodo, preventive counter-terrorism expert. He's based in the United Kingdom. Let me come back to you, gentlemen. When we started having, after 9/11, we saw the laxity in the security system in the U.S. You found out that after 9/11, in international flights, in local flights, you have plainclothes security operative, counterterrorism, policemen and military men embedded in the aircraft.
Yes.
So, of course, you heard what Temi said. Is this a path we need to walk?
Of course. From what General Chris Olukolade said, and from what Temi said, they're almost saying the same thing, but what is different from what Olukolade said is that we need to be ahead of the insurgents. For example, the general mentioned to you that they took out the telephone towers. If the telephone towers are out, what is your second option? What option does the military have? When you look at the military all over the world, they don't depend on private telephone companies to provide them with telecommunication. They have their own satellite telecommunications, which they use to coordinate whatever security challenges that they are having. I am surprised that the general will be talking about private telecommunications which can fail you. The communication between security agencies are somehow encoded. I mean, you've looked at military strategies. I'm sure you've read them. They are encoded. They are not something you need to go through MTN, go through a Etisalat. This is a very serious matter. If, as Doctor said here, that the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has made provision for this security matters, the money for the emergency in these states have been provided, and the security agencies in charge of these states that the emergency has been declared upon report directly to the presidency, and no longer the governors in most cases are no longer in charge. Something is seriously wrong when the military are not depending on themselves to be able to resolve the communication issues, because the communication issues are very paramount. Remember in 9/11,
Yeah.
Remember in 9/11, if you read the declassified documents, what happened was that there was a loss of communication. When the Bush government came in, there was some tinkering with what President Clinton's administration left. they started tinkering with the security apparatus. In course of that tinkering,
There was a lacuna.
there was a lacuna. There was a vacuum.
A void.
They couldn't. The informations were there, but they couldn't.
With them together.
They couldn't weave them together, and that was how they lost it.
They took advantage. The terrorists took advantage of it.
The terrorists will always take advantage. For instance, I have read some excerpts in the Nigerian newspaper where General Chris was saying that they took a different route. Of course, if you're my enemy, will I come to the route that you're waiting for me?
No, but I was going to.
You understand what I'm saying? What I would like the security agencies of this nation to do is to stop depending on people to do their work. The only thing they can depend on people to do is to gather information. And already, as my colleague indicated here, that information is being filtered or is being given to them already. So
It's how they use it.
It's how they use it.
Okay, let me ask you, because I've heard you deliver a paper, and one of your worries is that, look, so much money is provided, accountability. How can we make it accountable? How can we make our security agencies accountable? Taking cognizance of the fact that security issues, like Dr. Kebu continued to say, are secret.
Yes, you see, we may not have access to the actual processes through which security agencies conduct their activities, but we have access to the ordinary people, the ordinary police, the ordinary soldiers that are deployed, maybe when they are attacked or when they are talking in their parlors or somewhere, you get access to their feelings. These people that carry the guns to go and fight in all theaters of violence don't seem to be convinced that Nigeria is worth dying for. Why? Because while they are alive and fighting, there are allegations that most of them are not getting what they feel is their due. Even the allowances,
Yes.
the ordinary allowances.
So there's even a moral issue.
Yes.
Morale, whether their morale is
Yes.
is on top, whether it's the people in charge are boosting their morale, encouraging them incentives for them to work harder.
Yes, you see, there is this gap. There is gap of legitimacy between the motivation and the people being motivated. So there is this. Secondly, from what Dr. Maruka has been saying and what General Chris and our other colleague from UK, there seems to be very little brain content in what we are doing. People believe that security is about buying guns, about getting information gadgets, about getting ammunition and confronting insurgents. I don't think that's the issue.
Like you say, it's not a tea party.
Wars are not fought only on the battlefields. They are fought in offices with the brains of intellectuals and experts. So, in my opinion, I believe all these massive resources that have been deployed for security, for Boko Haram and others, maybe not 1/100th of it, 1/100, 1%, or even 1/1,000,000 is devoted to research.
Okay, gentlemen, we must leave it here. I must thank you for your time. Madukwe Okebu, criminologist and security analyst, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Awalu Anwar, social historian and policy consultant, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
When we return, we'll be talking to a clinical psychologist and we'll try to get into the brain of Boko Haram. Don't go away.
cannot afford to govern out of anger or yield to the politics of the moment.
Glad to know you're still with us. Today we are looking at Boko Haram and the containment strategy. But we've also invited someone who could help us look at the mind, the brain of Boko Haram, because I've had so many people ask this question. What can be driving men, fathers and mothers, to take the lives of children, take the lives of defenseless women, defenseless men, and all the other things that happen? With me in the studio, I have Professor Andrew Zamani. Andrew Zamani is a clinical psychologist and is of the University of Nasarawa State University in Kefi. Professor Zamani, you're welcome.
Thank you.
What could make a man go to a school in the night, see children, teenagers that are sleeping, burn the place, cut their throat, and kill them? What could be responsible for that?
Thank you. What we are dealing with now in Nigeria is sheer insanity. We must name it as it is. This is abnormal. This is unthinkable. It's unacceptable. And yet it's a reality that we have Nigerians now who have dead consciences, who could just do anything, not just to their peers who are adults, but to innocent children. People who have no hand in whatever they call their negative experiences. At inception, Boko Haram held government to the jugular and said that government was responsible for their frustration. Government had failed in meeting the yearnings of the young people that constitute the militia called Boko Haram. And over time, attempts have been made to bring these people to table so that rational discussion will be held. They can express themselves. Government would understand them and then respond appropriately. Unfortunately, this is not what we are seeing. What we are seeing is an expansion of violence, an expansion of intimidation.
You know,
what we are seeing is expansion of victimization.
Prof, when you
Yes.
started, you said it is insanity.
Yes.
You said these are men that have what you have called dead conscience.
Yes.
What can make a man get to the point of having a dead conscience? I mean, psychologically. Is it deprivation?
So
Is
many
it anger?
things. So many things. So many things. Deprivation is one. And it happens due to deprivation when there is no hope anymore that legitimate means of complaint can yield good results. And so people decide to take the alternative. I will get my needs met by all means. And of course, the first few attempts are not comfortable for them. But eventually, they get used to killing, they get used to maiming, they get used to all the atrocities that are associated with what you have seen right now.
Could they be doing this under the influence of maybe drugs?
Yes, I'm
narcotics?
trying to get to that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to that. When you see a situation like that, you can be rest assured that there are accompaniments of illicit substances. They cannot go on without drugs. So let me give you a picture of a typical insurgent. He is a psychopath, somebody who has lost respect for life and for the rights of others. Secondly, he is somebody who is up against the law. He is somebody who does not have good authority relations. He is somebody who is absolutely dependent on illicit substances. And he can do anything to get supply. So sometimes the withdrawal symptoms or the syndrome that is associated with cut off supply, maybe by government agencies and so on and so forth, frustrates them to the extent that they do what they do, including robbing banks, getting into worship places, and attacking children, innocent children in schools. We have seen a situation where there is a high prevalence of rape, sex crimes, in the course of executing terrorist acts. Again, these things are made possible by the brain support that they have from illicit substances.
Can indoctrination play a part in what we are saying?
Oh yes. Right now, what I think is going on in the Boko Haram camp is thorough radicalization. Some kind of brainwashing about, let me just call it an ideology, even though we don't know exactly what that ideology is. They are radicalized by a pattern of thinking that commits them in life and in death to doing what they are doing. Unfortunately, you do not see the productive substrates of that kind of radicalization. In what sense? In the sense that those who are perpetrating these acts of violence are not even interested in the results that they have been told by whoever has recruited them they would get. I was listening to your discussion with the doctors that just left, and one of the things that struck me was the fact that it was mentioned that most of these people are only prepared to die. And for me, it is abnormal for somebody to initiate an action that he calls a cause and is not interested in the outcome.
Let me ask you, Professor.
Thank you.
Is it possible for an about turn? If we use the technologies we have today in mind management and mind bending, is there any way we can, debrief this category of people to do a reverse and become responsible members of society?
Oh, yes. Right now, we in the Nigerian Psychological Association, I happen to be the president, we have made a few presentations to the authorities to request that they should consider very seriously the need to engage psychologists in both the counter-terrorism operations and in the management of those that are arrested.
And even those that have been affected by the actions of the terrorists.
Absolutely. What we are seeing is a situation where there is trauma all across the three groups. Those fighting counter-terrorism, those who are insurgents themselves, and then those who are victims or affected by these insurgent acts. Let me just address those who are affected. The wife of a military man on assignment in Borno is affected. First, she does not see her husband, does not know if he's going to return, including her children. They don't know. When he eventually comes back, he is no longer a friend. He treats her like an animal. And unfortunately, there are no programs in place
to manage the
to manage the two. So homes are breaking, and sometimes the woman who has prayed for her husband in the field to return safely, who sees the results, the positive results of her prayers, does not enjoy the marriage.
Well, Professor, we'll leave it here. I'm going to bring you back to this program because I'm finding this very interesting.
Thank you.
I must thank you, Dr. Andrew Zamani, clinical psychologist and president of Nigerian Psychological Association. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on the program.
Thank you.
I am Obiora Ilo. Thanks for joining us, and let's do it again same time next week.